All right, welcome to the Krug Show. Friday morning, Chase Senior's in the house. One of my favorite streams of the week is this one. We got a lot to get to. Niners and Colts, big game coming up. Monday Night Football. Let's go. Off and running on the Krug Show on a Friday morning. It's a Thursday schedule for the 49ers. They'll be headed down to training camp, down to their training facility in Santa Clara. But first, we're here to talk little Niners. Chase Senior's in the house. Appreciate him. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, 2 locations, third on the way, Embryville, Corte Madera, a third one coming in Petaluma. Definitely Pig and a Pickle is the best barbecue in all of Northern California. If you're in Northern California, try it out. You will love it. You will be a fan. You will come back for more. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Also, thanks to Sleeper and Habbas Law. We'll thank them in a bit, but let's get right to it. Chase, good to see you. Niners go Monday. I titled the stream, Could the Niners be looking past the Colts on Monday Night Football? I don't think the Niners – am I lagging here a little bit? Looks like I'm lagging a little bit.
I think you're catching up now.
Okay, I'm catching up. But yeah, what do you think? I mean, Lynch made it perfectly clear on KNBR this morning that they are not looking past the Colts. They are totally focused on the Colts. They're not focused on Ayuk. They're not focused on the Bears. They're not focused on the Seahawks. They're not focused on the playoffs. They're focused on the Colts and only the Colts. So that's the right thing to say, but after last night's Thursday night win to the Seahawks, the Niners control their own destiny. And if they win out, they are the number 1 seed, and the road to Levi's will go through Levi's, believe it or not, in the NFC. So what do you think? What are the odds that the Niners are thinking about the Bears, thinking about the Seahawks, thinking about the playoffs? If they win this weekend, they can clinch a playoff berth. But are they looking past Rivers and the Colts? What do you think?
I think there's a natural inclination there where some players and coaches can look at Super Bowl 60 being at Levi's Stadium and they can say to themselves, man, we have an opportunity here if we win our final 3 games on the road against the Colts, at home against the Bears, and against the Seahawks to get the number 1 seed and home field advantage. How awesome would it be to not even have to travel if we were to make it to a Super Bowl? It would be an incredible story. The Niners would become the 3rd team in the history of the NFL to play in a Super Bowl in their own stadium. But I think one of the reasons why the Niners are off to this start this year and why they've had the season that they've had is because of this coaching staff. It's because of the preparations. It's because of the consistent messaging from Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh. And I do truly believe that the Niners are taking this season on a game-by-game basis. And shoot, they've kind of had to when you think about this season from a macro sense with all of the injuries that they've had. They could have given up on the season weeks and months ago, right? Nick Bosa goes out in week 3, Fred Warner shortly thereafter on the road against Tampa Bay. But I think that week-by-week mentality that the Niners have been forced into because they've literally had to survive week to week can benefit them in a situation like this. And I'll also say this. I know the Colts have lost 4 games in a row, 5 of their last 6, and we can make fun of Phillip Rivers looking like he's 270 pounds, overweight, 44 years old, hasn't played since 2020. This Colts team is pretty legit. Their offense has been a top 10 unit all season long. They're top 10 in sacks. They have 2 really good wide receivers in Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce with a stud tight end in Tyler Warren. Up until a couple of weeks ago, Jonathan Taylor was in the running for Offensive Player of the Year. Lou Anarumo has that defense playing really well, led by that aforementioned front. And so it's easy with human nature to kind of settle in to look ahead to Chicago. But if the Niners do want to get that number 1 seed, they have an opportunity to do that by winning out. And the first step in winning out is taking on an Indy team that is also desperate and is also in the playoff hunt, and they're looking to end a 4-game spell.
Well, the Niners are having a hard time stopping the run. And here comes Jonathan Taylor. Niners have given up 5.4 a carry in the last 3 games. They've given up an average of 136 yards rushing per game over the last 3 games. And now here comes Taylor. The Colts have the 6th best rushing attack in football. They average 128 yards per game, 4.6 a carry. He's first in the NFL in carries, yards, rushing touchdowns, 7th in yards per attempt. The Colts have Quentin Nelson on that offensive line. They got a great, he's maybe the best guard there is. What do you think? I mean, are the 49ers maybe getting Tatum Bethune back? Is that enough? Will they be able to slow down Jonathan Taylor enough? Or is he going to run right through them and carry the Colts to victory Monday night?
You better hope so. And Kyle Shanahan said yesterday the run defense hasn't been good enough, if I'm not mistaken. And
Right.
you can't have a game against the Colts like you had against Tennessee, where you gave up nearly 7 yards per carry. If you do that against Indy, if you do that against Chicago, and they have such a dynamic running scheme, you will lose both of those games. It would allow Indy and Chicago to control the clock. This Niners team needs to be carried by the offense. I think they need to hover around 30 points per game, especially if the defense can't manufacture any turnovers, because they are talent bereft. They lack some depth. They're young, and they're going to make some mistakes. Now, the formula all year for this Niners defense, since the Fred Warner and Nick Bosa injuries, has been bend but do not break, and they've done a good job of buckling down in the red zone. I think they're 11th in red zone touchdown efficiency, and so that's a big reason why, from a points per game standpoint, they've been able to keep their heads above water. But if you can't control the ground game, especially against this Colts team, especially against Chicago, and shoot, Seattle's going to want to run it as well, you could find yourself in a lot of trouble. It's something that has to improve and get better with the playoffs on the horizon. And some of it could come down to personnel. Obviously, when you're without a Bosa, an underrated run defender, a Fred Warner, who is an excellent run defender, your run defense is going to be lacking. But Tatum Bethune had 10 or more tackles in 3 or 4 straight games before he got hurt against Arizona. If you put Eric Kendricks into the game a little bit, this is a player with 9 straight years of 100 plus tackles. One of the issues in the ground game is that the Niners have had poor tackling at times, and these running backs have been able to pick up yards after contact. And so maybe just with some slight personnel changes, they could improve just a little bit. But yes, they have to get better against the run, because Jonathan Taylor is a stud. This offensive line, as you mentioned, is really good. And Taylor this year is averaging nearly 5.5 yards per carry. And with Phillip Rivers, you're not going to pass it all that much.
It's interesting. The Niners could be the 1 seed. The Niners could miss the playoffs. You had a tweet earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday, about the Eagles, and they still have a shot to be the 1 seed. They need a lot to happen. Multiple teams have to lose multiple games, and it's not going to happen. But they still have a shot. I mean, what does that say when it's December almost 20th, and there's 3 games left in the regular season, and the 49ers can either be the 1 seed and the road to the Super Bowl can roll through Levi's, or they could be bounced altogether and miss the playoffs. I mean, in a way, it kind of, nothing illustrates how open this playoff run is this year, like that. I mean, that's amazing. I can't think that can't be the case every year, that you get to week 16 or whatever, and all these outcomes are still viable.
Oh yeah, it goes to show you, and it speaks to the craziness that we've seen ensue during the 2025 season. And the Thursday night football game was a great illustration of that. I mean, the Rams are up 30-14 in the fourth quarter. The Seahawks all time were 0-172 in franchise history, when down 15 or more points in the fourth quarter. They storm back. They tie the game with some crazy plays that happen. And then the Rams drive right down the field. They score. Then the Seahawks come right down the field. And Sam Darnold goes from sour milk Sammy to being clutch in crunch time and taking down Matthew Stafford and the Rams. And so this entire season, really from start to finish, or at least up until this point, has been so wide open, which is why it's such an intriguing season for fans, for media members, for content creators, but also why anybody has an opportunity, in my opinion, to go on a run, get hot, and potentially make the Super Bowl. That includes the San Francisco 49ers. Now, because they have injuries to some marquee players, they're going to have to play near perfect games once the postseason comes around. The offense is going to have to be around 30 points per game. The defense is going to have to be really good in the red zone, force field goals instead of giving up touchdowns. They're going to have to manufacture a couple of turnovers. But remember in 2021, when the Niners started 3-5, made it to the NFC Championship game and won 2 road games that year. Remember in 2022, when they were also below 500, got off to a slow start. They make the trade for Christian McCaffrey. And from that point forward, once he became a starter after the Kansas City game, they didn't lose again until the NFC Championship game. And so it is wide open. This is why the Niners have a great opportunity to really shock the world, shock the NFL, and go on a little bit of a run here. And what's crazy, too, is that everybody kind of looks at the Rams as like the best team in the NFC. Well, they lose to Seattle. If the Niners win against the Colts, they actually move ahead of the Rams.
Right.
If they win on Monday night, because they become the 5 seed because they have the better divisional record. The Niners are, I believe, 4-1 in the NFC West now.
Right. Rams are 3-2.
The Rams are now 4-2 in the NFC West. And with all that being said, like, for how good Los Angeles is, and they are a really good team, San Francisco can now jump them in the standings. And you're also talking about a Rams team that doesn't have a lot of quality wins, and they've blown double-digit leads now to Philadelphia. They gave up 24 unanswered, and they were up 30-14 in the fourth against the Seahawks on Thursday night. So this is just such a fun season. And I think you and I both, we have no idea who's going to make it to the Super Bowl and be playing at Levi's in February.
I know. It's wild. It's wide open. It's absolutely wide open. I was watching a buddy of mine doing a video the other day, and he's like, man, why not the Niners? Why not the Niners? There's no Mahomes. It doesn't look like it's going to be Lamar and the Ravens. I mean, a lot of these, Josh Allen may be there. He may not be there. Heck, you might be going up against Bo Nix. You might be going up against Drake May in the Super Bowl. And who knows?
It's as good of an opportunity to win a Super Bowl for an NFC team as there's been in like maybe a couple of decades. This is the first time since the early 2000s that a playoffs will not have a Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, or Patrick Mahomes. So it sounds crazy when you say it like that, but like the 1 and 2 seed, Drake May and Bo Nix, do you really fear those teams? Not that much. You and I both really like Houston because their defense is the best in the NFL. Do you fear their offense? I don't really. I really like their team, and I think that they can win the AFC, but I think the Niners could have an opportunity to beat them a second go around.
It's wide open. It's wide open. As you said, when you take Mahomes out of the mix, you take, Tom Brady out of the mix, you take these superstar quarterbacks out of the mix. It has a feeling of wide open. All right, let's talk about if I gave you $1,000 right now and said you got to wager it on anybody to win it all. You can pick anybody. I don't care, any seed. You could take somebody who's not even in the playoffs right now, that needs a little help in the final 3 games, and you just think they're going to get in. Like Detroit. You could take a Detroit at 8-6. They're going to win it all. If I gave you $1,000 and said you got to bet it on somebody right now to win the Super Bowl, I want to flesh this out a little bit. What would be your first, second, and third pick? So let's go with number 1. We'll go back and forth. I'll give mine as well. But go ahead. Who would be, if I gave you $1,000 and said you had to bet it on one team right now to win the Super Bowl, who would you put it on?
Man, they didn't get a lot of playoff experience last year because they had to go to Buffalo and they got dominated. But with how good their defense is, and given the offensive mind that Sean Payton is, if Bo Nix plays like he did against Green Bay, which I thought was the best game of his career, and if he plays like that, I think that Denver can win a ring. Number 2, I'm going to go with the Houston Texans, both in the AFC.
Wow.
I think they have a better defense than Denver, but they can get after the quarterback at just as high of a level, and they generate more turnovers. Their offensive line stinks, but if their offense can be just a little bit better, I really like the makeup of that Texans team. And at number 3, I think you just have to group a couple of NFC teams in there. Like, I like the Rams, but their secondary stinks. I like Seattle. I'm still worried about Sam Darnold in a big game. I like Philadelphia. I have no idea what their offense is going to be able to do. I like Green Bay, but now they're without Micah Parsons. Right. So, like, that third team is kind of a combination of all of them. Some people might point to Buffalo. I'm pretty firm in saying this, like, they're not winning a Super Bowl with that defense. It freaking stinks. and they're not going to get a first-round bye. So you're going to count on Buffalo at that defense to have to pretty much win in an offensive shootout without really playing in Buffalo for 4 straight weeks. Not sustainable. Not going to happen.
Yeah, this is so hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's a good exercise.
It is, because anytime you ask this question, the first question that comes up with, do I go with the favorite or do I try to beat the favorite? It's like going to the racetrack with do we beat the horse who's favored, or do we go with the horse that's favored? And I hear what you're saying. You're kind of going with the horse that's favored in some ways in Denver, right? Because they're the number 1 seed of the AFC. Though I don't think Denver's who is the Super Bowl favorite? Do we know?
So I got it right here. It's Rams at plus 490, even with the loss last night.
Okay.
The Seahawks at plus 550, Buffalo 8-1, Denver plus 850, the Eagles at 10-1, Packers at 11-1, Houston 12-1, Patriots 13-1, Niners 17-1, Jags 20-1, Bears at 22-1, Ravens 22-1, Chargers 25-1, Lions 27-1, and Buccaneers plus 4,000. So a mixed bag there.
Okay, so I'm looking at this. This is who I'd go with. I'd go with the Rams. Now, even though the Rams lost last night, the Rams don't commit a lot of penalties. They've got a really good D line. They've got a great coach. They got a Hall of Fame quarterback. They got some really great receivers. The Rams would be my pick. They're even today. I would if I had to bet everything, $1,000 on one team, I'll take the Rams number 1. Now, as far as number 2, who am I going with number 2? That's a tough call. I think I'm going with the 49ers.
Let's go.
I think I'm going with the 49ers. And my number 3 team, I don't really believe in the AFC teams that much. I think I'd probably go with the Bears.
Bears are good.
The Bears there's a power to the Bears that really is intriguing about the way they run it with their O-line. So I like the Rams, the Niners, or the Bears. Though I do see what you're saying about Houston. I just find is Houston really going to win it with Stroud and Woody Marks? And, I don't know, man. I know they got Nico Collins, and he's a great receiver, but I don't know. Something about Houston, it's like that's it's a little bit more of a projection than I really want to do, considering they're very, very young and not that great on offense, and it's not a great line. So even though I do respect Houston, I think Houston's got a shot. I think Buffalo's got a shot because of Josh Allen. I think the Chargers have a shot. I guess if I had to go with one AFC team, I'd probably go with New England. Just because they seem to have a really good, the quarterback is a lot better than I think. And they're pretty good on the line of scrimmage. They got a young offensive line, but I really like their secondary. So I would probably go with New England as my 4th choice, but I'm going Rams 1, Niners 2, Bears 3. What do you think?
I like that. I think the Bears offense is good enough to win it. I think the coaching on offense is good enough to win it. I don't love the up and down play of Caleb Williams because he's a sub 60% completion guy. The defense isn't great, but they are opportunistic. They force some of the most turnovers in the NFL. You'd be relying on a second-year quarterback to take you there, which we have seen before. These young quarterbacks have playoff success. But Chicago has a really hard remaining schedule left. Like, they have Green Bay, then they have the Niners, and then they have Detroit the final week of the year.
They could miss the playoffs.
They could lose all 3 of those games. The Niners actually have a better opportunity or a higher percentage chance to get the 1 seed than they do of missing the playoffs. They win on Sunday, they're in the playoffs. Right. If Detroit loses, they're in the playoffs. And so you feel good about San Francisco's ability here to clinch a playoff spot and at least get into the dance. I like New England. Their schedule has been very easy this year. They now have losses to Buffalo, in which they're up by 3 scores. And they lost week 1 to the Las Vegas Raiders, who I think are the worst team in the NFL. And that might be the weirdest result of the season. Wacky things can happen in week 1 because you're trying to work out kinks and you really don't know who you are. But New England doesn't have any playoff experience either. I like Drake May, and I think that he'll finish top 5 in MVP voting. I think Mike Vrabel is a terrific coach from a cultural standpoint and defensive standpoint. But like, I just don't know if that team is ready to win a ring right now. I think they've arrived like a year too early, although they were one team that I pinned as a worst to first possibility here. But again, this goes to show you that like if the Niners get in with their level of coaching, with still some of the stars that they have on offense, given how wide open this conference is, given how they've beaten the Rams and the Seahawks already on the road, they can be a factor. They can be a factor.
No doubt. I mean, Brock Purdy is, first of all, why am I so bullish on the Niners right now? It's really because I didn't see this version of Brock Purdy playing this year. I didn't. He's played way better after coming back from the injury than I thought was possible. I thought he was going to play poorly, inaccurately, not be able to drive the ball down the field, not be able to get away, and then it would be worse, and then worse, and then worse, and then worse, and then he'd be out, and we'd be looking at Mac Jones again. So the fact that he appears to have rested a long enough period of time to give his turf toe enough of a rest where he seems like he's himself again, that to me is changing my thoughts on this, because he's in, the same spot that Jalen Hurts was in last year, where you got a quarterback who's in his, what I would call the super prime, right? It's like you've been in the league, in the offense 2-3 years. You're now in your mid-20s. To me, your mid-20s after you've been in the offense for a couple of years for a quarterback is like the super prime. And Hurts won one last year in his super prime. Can Purdy win one in his super prime? Can he elevate this offense? Can this offense score enough points to cover for this defense? Can the offense and the special teams cover for the D? I guess is the big question. Right. Let me ask you about the Niner D, because the Niners are getting Jordan Elliott. He's dinged up, but he's getting healthier. Sam McQuainu is working his way back. I talked to Sam yesterday. Tatum Bethune could be back in this game. He had 15 tackle games, before he went out. Nick Martin is working his way back in the concussion protocol. They've got Eric Kendricks, who, could be part of this mix at any point if they call him off the practice squad. So they got a number of guys kind of working their way back into the lineup. Can the Niners be at least representative of a run defense, so it's not this overwhelming weakness? Are they going to be able to circle the wagons with some of the guys they have coming back to give themselves a fighting chance on defense? What do you think?
The names that you mentioned, you're reeling them off, and I'm like, okay, Jordan Elliott, known as a run-stopping defensive tackle, not a pass-rushing defensive tackle. Tatum Bethune, solid in coverage, not great, but he's good against the run. Eric Kendricks, 9 straight years of 100-plus tackles. He's been a very consistent player. He's pretty good against the run. If you can get Sam McQuainu back, he helps you against the run, but also as a pass rusher from both defensive tackle and defensive end. Yetur Gross-Matos, highest graded, according to Pro Football Focus, pass rush grade of any player on the Niners. If you can get him back, and for a miracle's sake, can he stay healthy, he can obviously help your pass rush a little bit. And so this Niners defense during the 3-game winning streak, prior to becoming a 4-game winning streak, was performing very well. They held Carolina to 9 points. They held the Browns to 8 points or whatever it was. And while the Cardinals picked up a lot of yards, like San Francisco dominated that game, over those 3 games, they generated 7 turnovers. Obviously, that's not really sustainable to have 7 turnovers forced over 3 games, but can you get 1? Can you get 2? George Kittle even said yesterday, like, if the defense can just hang in there and they can get a turnover or 2, we can do our part on offense. The offense pretty much is healthy now, outside of Ricky Pearsall, who unfortunately is hurt again and has become an injury-prone player. On defense, though, you're getting guys back who can help you in areas that you need it, getting after the quarterback and stopping the run. And so if you get those guys in the game, hopefully that makes you a little bit better. The offense continues to play like it has. You're getting a big boost this year, special teams-wise, from Brian Robinson, Sky Moore, and Eddie Pinheiro, with your coverage units being pretty good. And you kind of like the makeup of this team with where they're at.
It's wide open. It is a wide open deal in mid-December, which makes it very, very exciting. Now, Chase also covers the Eagles, and we have talked about a number of different angles in the NFC. We haven't talked about the Super Bowl champion Eagles, who are 9-5. They're currently the 3 seed. They're 2-2 in the division. They're 7-3 in the conference, and yet they've shown flaws down the stretch for sure. How do you view Philly's chances? How do you view Philly as this tournament begins here in the next few weeks? Some people feel like they're going to fire and they're going to rebound and they're going to show their the class of their talent is going to come out and that they're going to be back as a major player in the NFC playoffs. Other people feel like no, it ain't their year. They're going to get bounced. How do you see the Eagles right now?
Yeah, I mean, I see the comment section right now, and everybody's saying Eagles suck, and obviously Niner fans hate Eagle fans, and Eagle fans hate Niner fans, but they don't suck. I mean, they're a 9-5 football team. They have a Super Bowl caliber defense that's a top 5 unit in the NFL. Since the bye week and the acquisition of Jalen Phillips, they've been top 5 in sacks. Their defensive numbers since week 10 have been stellar, and their secondary is exceptional as well. So they're getting after the quarterback. They can defend the pass pretty well. They're a little bit leaky against the run. And so if the Niners face the Eagles in the playoffs, I'd be interested to see how Kyle Shanahan's run game goes up against Vic Fangio's run defense. But they have talent at all 3 levels. To me, what it comes down to for the Eagles is their offense. Their offense has been very Jekyll and Hyde this year, and there are a lot of reasons for that. They were running a very vanilla offense with a simplistic scheme that was very easily readable and predictable, and the offensive line has regressed. Saquon Barkley hasn't had the same season. Jalen Hurts has been very up and down because he's had 10 OCs over the last 10 years. I will say the last 2 games with what the Eagles have done against a top 5 defense and the Chargers and the worst team in football and the Raiders, I've kind of liked it from a schematic standpoint, play calling standpoint, trying to find an identity, the overall approach. They're doing a lot more modern day things as far as concepts go. The run game has gotten going at least a little bit. And I think what they needed in a city that is an absolute pressure cooker where you feel the media pressure and the fan pressure, they needed to have a performance like they did against the Raiders. And sometimes that type of performance can boost your morale, it can boost your confidence. I think the Eagles have found something on offense. The issue is that I just don't know if their offensive line is going to be able to improve. I think it is what it is. And so the run game is going to be mediocre. But I just think that they're a very dangerous team because of the championship identity, the championship pedigree, the fact that they won the Super Bowl last year. They've had, I think, the hardest schedule in the NFL, and they've beaten some really quality opponents. Dallas in week 1, they went on the road to beat Tampa Bay. They came back to beat the Rams. They've beaten the Chiefs. They've beaten the Lions. They beat the Packers on the road. Like, they have a lot of games that they've played. They beat Green Bay on the road, if I didn't mention that. They've had a lot of games that I think have prepared them for this postseason run. And when you win a ring, I just think mentally sometimes and physically, you're not going to turn it into gear until the final month, especially when you're feeling a little bit tired with the shorter off season and a longer schedule. So I think they're dangerous, but for me, it all comes down to their offense. And it wouldn't shock me if the Niners went on the road in a 6-3 matchup potentially and beat Philly in the wild card round. It wouldn't shock me at all.
It's funny. The Niners are carried by their defense and their offense, and their defense is just passable. The Eagles are carried by their defense, and the offense is more just passable.
Yeah.
Vic Fangio's defense since the bye week in week 9, they're first in opponent completion percentage, only allowing a completion percentage of 51.5%. They're second in opponent passer rating, 67.2. They're third in points allowed per game. They're only giving up 14.3 points a game. Now, granted, they played the Raiders in there. That will always, impact your stats. But still, Fangio's defense, Fangio's a big-time coordinator, and he's getting his defense, starting to peak here as it's starting to become meeting. Can the Eagles D carry them through? Is it that good of a D, you think? I know they've lost Sweat. they've lost some guys from the Super Bowl D a year ago.
I don't think it can carry you for an entire playoff run. I think it can win you a game or two. For instance, like the Eagles didn't score that many points in the wild card round against Green Bay last year, 22. They held off to beat the Rams in that snow game in the divisional round, but the offense still was a little bit choppy. Then they pop off for 55 points against the Commanders in the NFC Championship game and for 41 in the Super Bowl. And when the Eagles have won their 2 Super Bowls, that's kind of what's happened. Like the first game or two in the playoffs, it's usually a defensive-oriented ball game. Then the offense starts to catch its stride. I just think that through the course of a playoff run, if you don't get that first round bye, you've got to win 4 games in a row to win a Super Bowl. You have to be playing well on both sides. You have to be complimentary, because if you're not, I just don't think it's sustainable.
Couple headlines from around the league I got to get your thoughts on. Mahomes is out for the year. The Chiefs are done. But are the Chiefs done winning championships? What do you think? I mean, Mahomes is going to miss the rest of this year, but he may miss a good chunk of next year. And so that means we may never, ever again see Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce. You know, I think it's reasonable to feel like Kelsey's going to retire before Mahomes is ready to hit the field again. Then you got Andy Reid, who's probably approaching age 70, or maybe he might even be older than that. He's probably at the end or near the end. Same with Spags, same with Taub. So they've got this incredible coaching staff. They've got this, once-in-a-lifetime quarterback. But you also look at them and you kind of wonder, it's a young man's game. Are the Chiefs done as far as championships are concerned, or does Mahomes get another one?
I'm not going to say that they're done, because there was a 10-year stretch where Tom Brady and Bill Belichick didn't win a ring. And then they won a couple more after that. They beat Atlanta and they beat the Rams. So that's a long time between Super Bowl runs. They won a couple early when Tom Brady was young, a 10-year stretch, a decade-long stretch where they didn't win a Super Bowl. And then they won a couple to end their Patriots tenure. And then Tom Brady, of course, won another one with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I do think, and I've been saying this all year, that the Chiefs roster, I think, was the worst roster that they've had in recent memory as far as overall skill position talent, overall high-end talent, and overall depth. I just didn't love what I was seeing from Kansas City early in the year. And I don't think that Andy Reid had his best year. But while Patrick Mahomes might not come back to start next year might be a little bit of a rebuilding year, especially if you move off of Travis Kelce and he retires, if you maybe trade a Chris Jones. But I do think that come 2027, when you get Mahomes back for a full year, if Andy Reid's still in it, even if he's not and you get the head coach right, like I'm not counting out Patrick Mahomes. They've gone on a dynastic run. Brett Veach is one of the best GMs in the sport, so I just can't discount them.
Let's look ahead to the offseason. The Niners have to look at the Colts and the Colts only. You and I can look at whatever the hell we want to look at. That's the beauty of streaming. ESPN's got an interesting article out. One of the questions they're discussing with their experts this morning is, who is the most interesting offseason trade candidate? And a couple of them are guys that we know quite well. One of them is A.J. Brown. Are the Eagles going to trade A.J. Brown? He's due $50 million in cash over the next 2 years. The Eagles would absorb a $20 million cap hit if he's traded before June 1st. They could save $7 million on the cap if they wait until after June 1st. They probably would like to move him during the draft so they could get some draft capital back and build their team with whatever they get in return for A.J. Brown. What do you think? Is A.J. Brown in his final year with the Eagles? What is the story here, by the way? Because this guy just seems so ambivalent about his career. He seems so kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's hard. It's a weird watch from afar. You're down in the huddle almost with the Eagles. What is going on with A.J. Brown that got us to this point?
Well, it's definitely not a Brandon Ayuk situation. A.J. Brown hasn't quit on his team like Ayuk did. He hasn't gone missing in the witness protection program like Ayuk has. And AJ is actually beloved inside that Eagles locker room. He was voted a team captain and has been over the last couple of years. And people look at him as one of the best leaders within that locker room. I think he's voiced frustrations with the offense, the scheme, at times the play of the quarterback, and how Hurts plays and errs on the side of being more conservative as compared to being aggressive. And I can see where AJ is coming from with that. He's also been public about his battles with mental health in the past. But what's crazy is that AJ Brown has been with the Eagles now for 4 years. And each of the last 3 years since he was acquired in 2022, he's gone over 1,000 yards and he's been an All-Pro. This year, despite everything that has happened, I think he leads all wide receivers in 100-yard games, and he's on the cusp of once again going over 1,000 yards receiving. And so I think it depends on how the Eagles end the year. If it's ugly and it blows up and maybe he has another sideline spat after promising Jeffrey Lurie he wouldn't go public with that, I think the Eagles could look to trade him away and saying, look, it's just become too much of a distraction. Are we really going to do this every single year or multiple weeks throughout the season? We have to worry about what AJ is going to say, if he's going to pop off, if he's going to be tweeting, and they could try to financially reset at wide receiver. You draft one, you roll with Devontae Smith as your number one, you find another guy to be a wide receiver 3, you become dependent on the run game again, and you kind of reset financially from that standpoint. But Howie Roseman really isn't in the business of getting rid of good players, and so I think he'd like for this to continue. But if the drama keeps bubbling to the surface, I think it just becomes too much to deal with as far as distractions go, because that can impact a team. And as we know, Larry, it's just always wide receivers. It's always wide receivers.
How about Mac Jones? It's funny. I get the feeling that the Colts might be a good landing spot for Mac Jones. And if I were the Niners, send him to the AFC. Ballard and Lynch have done deals in the past. They've got Daniel Jones there, but he's got the Achilles. Probably won't be ready for next year. What do you think of this trade? How about Mac Jones to the Colts for a second-round pick and Anthony Richardson? And let's see if Shanahan can rehabilitate an incredibly talented, athletic, upside-rich quarterback like Richardson, because, if Richardson could get some momentum going in the Niners system as a backup, there'll be people knocking themselves over to try to get him a year from now. And I kind of like this newfound Darnold, Mac Jones quarterback reclamation lane the Niners are in. To me, this is a lane that very few teams can be in. Yeah. And because of Brock Purdy's work ethic and approach and Shanahan's offense and his acumen, I think this is the spot for all reclamation quarterbacks. Zach Wilson, you name it. Everybody who hasn't done what they want to do should be sprinting to come play behind Brock Purdy and for Kyle Shanahan inside this offense. What do you think is going to happen with Mac Jones? I think trading him makes sense, but I want a pick and a player, and I ain't taking anything less than a second-round pick and a really good player.
Yeah, a few months ago, it looked like this 2026 quarterback draft class was going to be loaded, but now it has a possibility of being a lot thinner. Lenora Sellers, the athletic freak from South Carolina, is going back to school.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he is going back to school.
I didn't see that.
I think this quarterback draft class really hinges on what Dante Moore is going to do out of Oregon, what Ty Simpson's going to do out of Alabama. Garrett Nussmeier was looked at as a first-round pick. He kind of flopped this year. Cade Klubnik was looked at as a first-round pick. He flopped this year. So because this quarterback class is thinner, that might increase the desperation level for quarterback-needy teams, thus increasing the value of a Mac Jones trade. And so for the Niners, I think it comes down to one of two avenues, right? Do they want to err on the side of quarterback security and have Mac Jones as a cheap backup for Brock Purdy next year?
Has value.
Considering what he did this year, going 5-3, and he was excellent, career high in yards per attempt and completion rate, and clearly resurrected his career. Or if a team like Indy, if a team like Pittsburgh, if a team like the Vikings is desperate enough to offer a second and a fourth, the Niners didn't make a move at the deadline because they value this draft compensation, because they're in this hybrid resetting, rebuilding phase. Do they trade Mac Jones away for a 2 and a 4? Could be really difficult to turn down. Another reclamation project could be Tua Tagovailoa if the Dolphins cut bait. Now, I think that he'd be a good scheme fit for Kyle Shanahan because he can play point guard, distribute the ball, get rid of it on time accurately, and in rhythm to playmakers. I do worry about the concussions. I worry about the turnover prone play. I worry about him not playing well in any type of inclement weather. I think he's small. He has a weaker arm and he's not mobile. But him pairing up with Kyle Shanahan would be very, very intriguing. There's also this, like, I don't know if Kyle would want a left-handed quarterback. You have to kind of change the direction of your run game, the routes, the spin and the tail of the ball is different for a lefty as compared to a righty. But if he gets let go by Miami, he will be linked to the Niners as a reclamation project.
All right, let's finish with this. We'll center on the word circle. Okay, I'm going to name a team. You tell me if they are closer to the winner's circle or circling the drain.
Okay.
Okay. Tampa Bay. What do you make of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? They've lost 5 of their past 6. Now it seems like Bowles is kind of ripping them. He's kind of pointing the finger at the locker room. But Mike Evans is getting healthy. Baker, Baker's always a playmaker. But they have lost 5 of 6, and they're pressing on offense. They're reeling on defense. They're playing third-string offensive guards. The pass rush is non-existent. I see them as a circle the drain. I don't see them headed towards the winner's circle. What do you see with Tampa?
I'm with you. Really, since beating the Niners, that was a high-level win for Tampa Bay. They've been bad. Now, the defense, which is Todd Bowles' specialty, hasn't been that good. They have suffered a ton of injuries on both sides of the ball. That loss to Atlanta 2 Thursdays ago was as bad as it gets. I think they're circling the drain. They have 3 weeks to get it right, and they're getting some players back and healthy. I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make. They've been bad for like a month and a half at this point, so I'd say circling the drain.
Green Bay, 9-4-1. They're 4-0 inside a really, really good division. They're 7-2-1 inside the conference. Those are really good records, but they just lost Micah Parsons. It doesn't seem like Jordan Love is progressing quite as fast as I'm sure they would like. Right. I'm hearing my moles say that LaFleur is on the verge of getting crap canned. I think they're another team that's circling the drain more than they're circling the wagons and headed towards the winner's circle.
They're a bipolar football team. When they play well, they look awesome. When they play poorly, they look bad. And you never know what you're going to get from Jordan Love. And that's a really tough way to play when you just don't know what your quarterback is going to do game in and game out. I think LaFleur is a good coach. I think that he has some of his weaknesses as far as indecision on whether or not to go for it on 3rd and 4th down, sometimes from a game management standpoint. The loss of Micah Parsons really hurts them. Like, Parsons was putting together an all-pro caliber season, and he was having a great, fantastic 2025. Without him, the defense is still good, and they can find ways to scheme around it. But losing him, I think, really alters their chemistry on defense and their ceiling for winning a Super Bowl. So I'm not going to say circling the drain. I still think that they could beat any team in the NFC on their best day. But I do think that the Parsons injury takes them out of being a Super Bowl caliber team.
Detroit Lions, circling the drain or headed towards the winner's circle?
Going to go circling the drain. I think they lost a generational offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson. The play calling on offense with Dan Campbell just hasn't been the same, and obviously kind of expected that to be the case. He took over play calling duties for the OC who replaced Ben Johnson, and their defense is banged up once again. It's another year in which they're suffering a lot of injuries, so I just don't think this is their year, and I don't find a scenario in which they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, Brian Branch was a killer loss.
Yeah.
Oh my God. He's one of the best defensive backs in all of football. He's physical, he's violent, he can hit, he can cover. He's great. I mean, he's an awesome, awesome player. And once they lost him, I mean, they last game out against the Rams, they allowed the Rams to put up 519 total yards.
Yeah.
So I think the Lions. I think Lions, Packers, Bucks circling the drain.
Yep.
Okay, how about Bears? Winner's circle, circling the drain.
Winner's circle. Yeah, I think from an offensive standpoint, what they're doing is explosive, dynamic. They're a physical team that plays this time of year. They have a really good run game. Their defense is opportunistic and generating turnovers. So I like Chicago. Yeah.
Seattle, big win last night. They're 12-3. They're currently the 1 seed. It's easy to go, hey, man, they're headed towards the winner's circle. But, they also got beat up in the secondary. And, I don't know the extent of the injury to Eman Wari, but if they lose Kobe Bryant, Eman Wari, they lose some of these guys in the back end. They're not the same team. What do you think? Closer to circling the drain or winner's circle?
Yeah, I think they're in the winner's circle, but man, they kind of got exposed a little bit by the Rams on Thursday night. More than 500 yards of offense. Puka Nacua went over 2 Bills. The Rams were successful in running the ball once again. I still worry about Sam Darnold in a big game. Some of the picks that he threw on Thursday night, he just got completely confused by what Mike Shula was doing on defense. So I'm going to put him in the winner's circle. The defensive coaching is elite. I like what they do from an offensive scheme standpoint. They're a little bit Jekyll and Hyde, hot and cold on offense, but I think they're good enough to be in the winner's circle for sure.
Steelers circling the drain or maybe winner's circle?
Not
quite. They're at Ford Field against the Lions this week. It's like they didn't have TJ Watt last week, but they still got a win over the Dolphins.
I think they win 1 playoff game max is the best way to characterize Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And that's progress. They haven't won a playoff game in nearly a decade. So.
That's right, 2016.
Yeah.
How about Chargers? Circling the drain or potentially in the winner's circle?
I think they're a 1 playoff win type of team just because they've had too many injuries. I mean, they're without their top 2 offensive tackles. They've had injuries at running back, injuries on the defense. I like them a lot, and I love their coaching. Jesse Minter, their DC, is going to get a head coaching job soon if he doesn't go to Michigan to replace Sharon Moore. And I love Jim Harbaugh. But I just think with all those injuries, like there's a cap to what they can do.
Maybe I should wait to ask you this till Sunday, but Jacksonville, they're 10-4. They take on the Broncos in Denver on Sunday. Broncos are 12-2. Jaguars, this should be interesting. The Jaguars' red zone offense has been awesome.
Yeah.
It's the best in the NFL. They're really doing a nice job. And, over the past 5 games, Trevor Lawrence has 12 touchdowns and 3 picks. And he's got 9 touchdowns and no picks over the past 4 games. What do you think? Is Jacksonville going to circle the wagons and maybe wind up in the winner's circle, or are they going to circle the drain?
Really want to see how they fare against Denver because that's a true litmus test for where Jacksonville is right now. And I'd say the Jags are the weirdest, most silent 10-4 team in the NFL right now. Trevor Lawrence had 6 touchdowns last week. It was against the Jets. I'll say from a play design, play calling, schematic standpoint on offense, I really like what Liam Cohen has been doing this year. Very creative. He maximized Baker Mayfield last year. I think the Bucs are missing him a little bit this year. And Trevor Lawrence is playing the best ball of his career. I just can't see how the Jags can go on a deep playoff run.
I agree. I think they're circling the drain. I don't believe in Lawrence. How about the Chargers? And the Chargers can clinch a playoff berth with a win and a loss by either the Texans or the Colts. Are the Chargers headed towards a potential winner's circle, or are they going to circle the drain?
Well, we just talked about the Chargers. Did you mean to say somebody else?
No, I was. I thought we hit. Did we hit the Chargers? I thought we.
Yeah, just hit the. I was saying all their injuries keep them from winning multiple playoff games.
Okay, I think I was looking. I was searching for another screen while you said that.
Okay.
Buffalo. We've already kind of hit on Buffalo a little bit, but they're 10-4, and they do have maybe the best quarterback still going.
Their defense isn't good enough to win a Super Bowl. It's really bad.
I also don't think their weapons are good enough.
Their weapons stink. They have a bunch of threes.
How about New England? Do you believe that New England was a fast start, slow finish, or are they potentially going to circle the drain as well?
I'm a believer in New England. I just wish they'd be tested a little bit more. Now, they do have Buffalo last week and Baltimore back-to-back. So we're going to find out a lot about New England, but their schedule has been paper mache, and I just want to see them test a little bit more before I definitively know what New England can be and do.
All right, let's finish with our sponsors here. We'll hit a couple supers and we're out of here. We're brought to you, of course, by Sleeper. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. The entire season, all season long on the Krug Show has been brought to you by Sleeper. Thanks to them. They've been a great sponsor for the Krug Show. So thanks to Sleeper for sponsoring the Krug Show. And we should tell you that coordinator football season presented by Sleeper, fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. One-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and, of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry. Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. Do you have a bold prediction that you want to throw out before we get out of here today? Is there a bold prediction maybe we haven't covered, Chase, that you're like, you know what? I'll throw that out there as one that I really believe in.
Man, I feel like the Niners can win out. I just feel something special with this football team. Yeah, I think that they can win out. The run defense is going to have to be better, but I think that they can win out, especially if the offense continues to play like they've been playing.
Can Brock Purdy win a Super Bowl? We've been asking that question for a while. I think he can. We're brought to you by Habbas Law, 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. HabbasLaw.com on the web. Thanks to Habbas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Let's hit our three supers here. We got this one from Joseph Ernberg. We are getting belt to ass these next three games. It's disgusting the amount of enthusiasm around this mediocre team. Love you, Chase. You're an inspiration. Okay. Really?
I don't think they're going to get their asses kicked.
I don't think so either. We get this one from G Code Travels Vlog POV. What AFC quarterback is a threat for 49ers Super Bowl XL? I think it's Josh Allen. Yeah, well, there's no question. Josh Allen's a great quarterback, but it's more than just the quarterback, as we saw last year in the Super Bowl. And Fuji Simeon, if Week 18 game with Seattle is a must-win, how soon does the NFL need to give notice to broadcast and league if they flex the game to Sunday night? Is it doable? I don't think they can, right? I don't think they can. I thought the last game of the year they did. I didn't think they had the flexibility.
The time is TBD right now. So
yeah, but isn't the time TBD in all of the games? Don't they play them all at the same time? Maybe I'm thinking of a baseball thing.
My guess is that it's going to be the 4:25 Eastern, 1:25 Pacific kickoff.
I like the Niners to beat the Colts. I think that Bears game is going to be a war, and
it's going to be hard. Yeah,
I think that's going to be the toughest game. If the Niners get to the last game and it's Niners Seahawks at home for the number one seed, the Niners will beat the Seahawks. I really do believe that. But that Bears game is the one that really scares me because that Bears offensive line is really, really good. That's going to do it for us. What do you got cooking the rest of the day, man? I know it's kind of an interesting schedule because, it's a Friday, and then there's Saturday, and then there's Sunday, the off day, and then we play Monday. We get the Monday nighter. How does that change what you're putting out there this week?
Yeah, well, I did a regular live show yesterday, and then I went live for Rams Seahawks. And then given what happened and the seating implications, like I did a video around 1 a.m. Eastern time because I saw you were live at the same time, too. I think you and I were both like
we had 6,000 people in the
That's
room
insane. That's awesome.
I was like,
that's
what
crazy.
is going on?
Yeah.
I was looking at the thing going, is this wrong? I thought there was, it was unbelievable.
Yeah,
but
I think you and I were like, we got to capitalize and talk about this from a Niner standpoint. So I did that. So I'm going to take a little bit of a nap, and then we'll get some content out there a little bit later.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Chase, you're the best, man. Have a great week. We will talk to you next week. Actually, this is probably our last show before the holidays. So Merry Christmas, man. I mean, it's been awesome to stream with you. I think you're one of the best. I love your platform. I love the content that you put out there. Every time I see your stuff out there, I think, man, that's some really, really good stuff. So congratulations on another really, really successful, 2025. And, I tip my cap to you. You do incredible stuff. And I look forward to doing more stuff together in 2026, man. We really enjoyed these Friday streams.
Likewise, man. You're killing it. You and Kev are just crushing it on the Krug Show. And, I look up to you with what you've been able to do in your career to be able to join you every single Friday for a football Friday. It's an absolute blast. Like, these are the days where I'm supposed to be resting because I'm not in the office, but I can't turn down the opportunity to talk Niners with you. So look forward to keep doing it. Way to crush it this year as well.
You got any thoughts quickly? Alabama, Oklahoma tonight. Also, we got some college football going this weekend with the playoffs starting. Miami A&M, Tulane, Ole Miss. There's some good games. James Madison, Oregon. I mean, Oregon's going to kill James Madison. That shouldn't even be that game. They shouldn't even schedule. But what do you think? Give me a winner, Miami A&M. Give me a winner tonight, Oklahoma, Alabama. What do you think?
I think, Alabama avenges their loss from earlier in the year against Oklahoma, and I picked Texas A&M to beat Miami. I can't trust Carson Beck in a big game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I like both those as well. For Chase, I'm Larry. Have a great one, everybody. I'm down in Santa Clara. We're going to talk to Sala. We're going to talk to Kubiak. We're going to talk to Purdy. It's all coming up later today. Join me at 6 for Niners Nightly. For Chase, I'm Larry. Have a great one. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you